I have some exciting news to share. Rhyme and Chatt Interactive Poetry Organization was recently honored by the City of Chattanooga with a very special recognition. The city officially proclaimed the second Saturday of April during National Poetry Month as Chattanooga's Rhyme and Chatt Day. This day has been set aside for the entire community to come together and celebrate interactive poetry and creative expression. And we showed up in style. We kicked things off with Poetry and Punchlines, which is a high-energy event that blended National Poetry Month with National Humor Month. It was an exciting, interactive open mic where everyone was encouraged to show their funny side and to bring the laughs. And trust me, they did not disappoint. Thank you to everyone in the community who showed up to support our kickoff event. Next, we headed downtown to the Chattanooga Library for the Ekphrastic Writing Workshop led by the incredible Gemini Fox, a spoken word artist who came all the way from Tampa, Florida. That was followed by our annual Literary Lair open mic, held in partnership with the library's Write and Chat group. But we weren't done with just that. The celebration continued down at Renaissance Park, where we officially launched Chattanooga's first Poetry Pathway, a project made possible through our amazing partnership with the city's Office of Arts, Culture, and Creative Economy. And I'll tell you more about that in just a moment. But we closed out the day with a soulful poetry and jazz wind down open mic featuring two of Chattanooga's finest, Frank B. and Suevo. The vibes were real and the creativity was flowing all day long. We do want to give a huge shout out to WUTC 88.1, Chattanooga's NPR station, for their continued support, not just for Rhyme and Chat, but for the entire community. We are so grateful to you. Now, let's talk more about Poetry Pathway, a project that we are especially proud of. I'd like to take a few minutes to inform you about an exciting new installation that Rhyme and Chat has brought to the city of Chattanooga. On April 12th, through a partnership with the City of Chattanooga's Office of Arts, Culture, and Creative Economy, Rhyme and Chat was able to launch Poetry Pathway at Renaissance Park. The following is some information about the installation, and we also encourage you to stop by Renaissance Park. It's located in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and we want you to be a part of the Poetry Pathway experience. The following are some comments made at the launch by Carmen Davis from the City of Chattanooga's Office of Arts, Culture, and Creative Economy, Cynthia Robinson Young, a Poetry Pathway poet and Rhyme and Chat member, and we will also hear from Rhyme and Chat board member, licensed clinical social worker, and ecotherapist Valerie Radu.
On behalf of Mayor Tim Kelly and the Office of Arts, Culture, and Creative Economy, I'm thrilled to welcome you all to Renaissance Park for the launch of Poetry Pathways. Art and the outdoors are deeply connected. Both invite us to slow down, look closer, and see the world with fresh eyes. In a park like this one, poetry becomes part of the landscape. It reminds us that creativity doesn't just live in galleries or theaters. It lives in our trails, our benches, through our pen, and under our open skies. We're so grateful to partner once again with Rhyme and Chat. Just last month, we came together to welcome Ishmael Reed back home. Even though the weather wasn't quite as merciful with us on that event, Marsha still was able to share with him a very special piece of literature that she wrote for him for that occasion. Projects like Poetry Pathways are more than just beautiful additions to our green spaces. They uplift our creative community and contribute to a thriving creative economy. When we invest in the arts, we're investing in connection and culture and the future of Chattanooga. So once again, thank you so much for allowing us to do this.
When I became a poet and started trying to get my friends interested in poetry, they'd say, well, I'll buy your book, but I hate poetry. So one of my passions has been to make poetry accessible. And that's where we run into Marsha, because her passion also is to make poetry accessible to the people. So it's exciting to have this installation. I was excited when she talked about it because it's a way for you guys to say, this park is part of what you're experiencing, and poetry should be a part of that. It's just explaining things. And one thing that poetry does is that it takes something as simple as a tree, but it helps you look at it in a new way. That's what our job as poets is, to help you look at things in a new light. And so we're hoping that as you go to these different spots, that you're not just looking at the water, but you're seeing it through the eyes of a poet and you're seeing it in a new way. Because that's our job, to help discover new ways to see things.
So I'm Valerie. I'm a board member. I'm also a licensed clinical social worker, and I am an ecotherapist. And I believe in the power of nature for healing. I have a practice with women where we do a lot of things outside, especially if you've had trauma, which is all of us, because we're being human is hard. So we bring people together outside to share. We use a lot of poetry in what we do. We do writing. We do all kinds of things. And I really love what Rhyme and Chat does in creating safe spaces. And right now we need a lot of safe spaces. We need places where we can show up, where we can use our voice, where we can access words that maybe we don't know that are there. So on a beautiful day like today, take a moment and look around. It's beautiful out. The wind is blowing. You know, Chattanooga is such a green city. When I travel and I always come back home, it's always so nice to come in from Memphis and see how green it is as you get into the Tennessee Valley. So this is a really special place. We have a lot of history here. We also have a lot of healing that's happened here in this area. And Rhyme and Chat is now really amplifying that. And it's really an honor to support the work as a board member, but also to get the message out about using your voice, and your voice does matter. So thank you.
When you see one of the placards, scan the QR code. It's going to take you to a web page. And on the web page, you will see a poem that was written by a local poet that was inspired by the spot that you are standing in. So, what you are seeing, what you are sensing and hearing, that's the same thing that that poet was experiencing. And they were inspired and they wrote poetry. So, on the page, you will see a poem. You will also have a link that takes you to an audio recording of the poet reading their poem. And that is actually to make our site more accessible to a wider audience. There's information about the poet themselves, and then there is a form that you can fill out. Give us some information about yourself, and then submit your own poem. If you are inspired by this particular spot, we want to hear a poem from you. So, from the poetry that's submitted to us, those poems are going to be considered for the next rollout of poems that we do in the fall. So you just may be hearing from us if your poem is selected to be a part of the next rollout of Poetry Pathway. So in this spot, I was inspired. And the poem that I wrote is entitled In the Circle. Gather around the circle, feel its embrace, unifying us in this sacred place. A warm breeze kisses gentle on face. The birds sing in chorus. Amazing grace. Ants march in formation. An Armed Forces Day parade. A ladybug stops to bask in the sun on grassy blade. Tree boughs bow in submission, granting a shade. Stop and take a look at all that our God has made.
Face to face, shared breasts of humanity, shoulders heavy with history's weight, dreams of unity, acceptance, and love without judgment stand across invisible walls built on assumptions and shades of skin. The weight of this moment presses upon us like a wool stuff patchwork quilt. Our clashing burdens, our clashing passions, fragile yet fierce, like newborn butterflies with rusty razor wings. Listen, there's a solace in the silence, as between the dark blue hour of twilight and the burgeoning dawn. hear our histories whispering beneath our skins, that standing together, we are not so different, blending colors, longing for light. Framework.
Good look at this path, the perfect symbology, because life is always pretty straightforward, with no apology, and formed solidly. And though despite maybe not understanding why, or the placement of things, adaptation seems to be demanding, right? And it points to see growth with an expanding life. And taking steps brings more potential than just standing might. And that's why we should always look to nature, because there is nothing stagnant. The epitome if there could ever be a production magnet. The contemplation. I mean, think of everything you've ever known about. It's a lot to base with, but it's all projected by the same catalyst that we got our names with, observations. And see, everything draws from that. Within the nature of life's expression, there can never be a thoughtless act, because every outcome is a response to action with a reason to accomplish that. So upon this path, let this be a message to always walk intently and confidently. Life is not to simply be disregarded. The smallest detail will always lead to the larger picture, because you cannot depict the self without the other.
Hill. A warm summer evening, children running around like mosquitoes out in droves. The Tennessee River flowing, entertaining boats, kayakers, paddleboarders, and fishermen on the pier. People strolling across the Walnut Street Bridge and along other numerous footpaths in Coolidge and Renaissance Park. It is here in Renaissance that you find the laughter, love, and joy. There along the path, near the parking lot, is the hill. High enough and sloped at such an angle, with just the right amount of flat ground at the bottom, it beckons. Those that know have cardboard boxes, winter sleds, and other fun contraptions. Here, children of all ages, young and old, trudge giggling to the top of the hill, dragging the transport of choice. Hop aboard and fly to the bottom, gleefully yelling, screaming, and laughing. In the midst of all the happy chaos, you witness kindness. Those with flying machines happily handed off to the stranger standing near, a child with tears in their eyes because no one knew. As the tears dry as a new friend offers their raggedy cardboard box, grabs a hand, and says, "Let's go. Race you to the top." Zoom, here they soar, beaming from ear to ear, happiness in the air.
Are a shadow across the horizon, the chasm overwhelming and unyielding in its expanse. Were we meant to cling to the fragile threads of what we knew and anchor ourselves to the familiar, fearing the unknown tides? Some began to question the sanctity of our ways we eulogized. The other side had their own, and they seemed to thrive as well. Was there merit in our unwavering belief in the supremacy of our ideals? Or was there wisdom in extending our understanding of others? Ironically, trouble brewed as the other side began to flourish. We noticed a mosaic of diversity, a melody of contrasts in their ranks, a harmony with differences working hand in hand through triumphs and setbacks. But the question remained, what was the catalyst of their success? A gentle shift in thinking of once rigid thoughts took hold among us. What wisdom had they unearthed? What truths did they hold? Rumors whispered of walkways and channels opening between them and others, pathways leading to places vastly different from ours. Slowly and tentatively, the brave emerged, trying to gain momentum. A few even trying to reach out to the other side for the very first time. Tentative steps were heavy with fear and hesitation until one day contact was made. A strange and unfamiliar embrace, yet uplifting. Gradually, the puzzle revealed itself. Success was no accident. They had labored ceaselessly, overcoming opposition to reach beyond their shores, building bridges with the other side, welcoming them, making them feel wanted. What started as a trickle became a steady stream, fear replaced with excitement. Yet the journey wasn't embraced by all, broken by a focus on differences. Some decried the dilution of culture, the disrespecting of our ancestors. Voices of dissent echoed, clinging to the past, superiority at the helm. But ultimately, the growing majority spoke, and the bridge started to be built. I stand today gazing at the monument to connection, an eternal testament to bridges that have and continue to span our divide, pleading humans to connect, not for the fleeting, frivolous, or familiar, but for triumph of humanity as we embrace, uplift, promote, learn, and live together. Let bridges shape the soul of our world, not politics divide us. Thank you.
The Poetry Pathway enhances the park experience by connecting poetry to specific spots within Renaissance Park. It invites visitors to see the space through a poetic lens, deepening their appreciation for the natural beauty around them. It also amplifies local voices, giving poets from our community a platform to showcase their work in an impactful, meaningful way. This exhibit fosters a connection, celebrating both Chattanooga's landscape and its literary talent. And it's a literary resource as well. Families, students, homeschool groups can all come read poems together and take part in the writing challenge where they can submit their own poetry. So, if you're in Chattanooga or just passing through, we invite you to visit the Poetry Pathway at Renaissance Park. Listen to local poets, take in the scenery, and maybe even be inspired to write something of your own. Come, be a part of this powerful and poetic experience.